So I moved out of my mom's house when I was 16 to go live with my aunt. My doctor at that point told me, yeah, you are most likely infertile. You just have to take a pregnancy test before you start taking the birth control for like safety measures. Both of the pregnancy tests in there at the same time, and immediately both of them turned positive. Hunter and I had known each other for 2 months. We did not know each other super well. But the next couple of months were just literally like the darkest point of my life. I could feel that she was like, it wasn't a disappointment, it was like she was hurt for me. I'm on ADHD meds and that's gonna mess me up, and had just been diagnosed with bipolar depression type 2. Hunter ended up telling me that while I was in there, they were jumping over the fence to yell at him in his truck and to scream at him and tell him that he's going to hell. And for the first time in the entire time that I've been pregnant, I start crying about the fact that I'm giving up my baby.
Today's episode shares a story of fierce love, deep loss, and unimaginable strength, and it simply is too much to hold in one conversation. That's why this powerful journey will unfold as a 2-part series. At just 19, Andrea faced an unplanned pregnancy and explored every option before her. From walking out of an abortion clinic to discussing potential families with an adoption agency, she did all she could to make the best decision for herself and her child. She went on to give birth to a premature, medically fragile baby who required round-the-clock care in the NICU for almost a year before passing away. Andrea's 2-part series is filled with raw emotion, unflinching honesty, and the remarkable resilience of a young woman discovering strength she never knew she had. If this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, welcome. Unplanned and Untold is completely donor-funded, and we rely on generous supporters like yourself. If you believe that no student mom should face an unplanned pregnancy alone, consider making a tax-deductible donation through the link in our show notes. And if you're enjoying the show, a free and easy way to help us out is by following us on social media or by leaving us a 5-star review. It truly makes a huge difference. Y'all, as a disclaimer, this 2-part series includes deeply emotional episodes with potentially triggering topics, so please prepare yourself as we welcome Andrea to Unplanned and Untold. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. Really appreciate you being here today.
I'm so excited. I cannot tell you how much of an answered prayer this actually is.
Well, I've listened to a little bit of your story, have a little gist of where we're going. And honestly, this is going to be a podcast episode like no other. I mean, there are so many ups and downs and twists and turns in your story. And I just can't wait to dive in and for our listeners to just hear how incredibly resilient you are for being so young. Oh my goodness.
Caitlin, that's so nice of you. That's so nice of you to say.
Well, let's take our listeners back to a little bit of how you were raised, because that too is a story in itself.
Yeah, so I was born in Panama. My dad was working on the railroad there, on the Panama Canal Railroad. Wow. My mom is from Mexico. They met in Mexico and moved to Panama for my dad's job. I grew up speaking Spanish. I had to learn English when we moved to the U.S. And pretty quickly after we moved to the U.S. when I was 9 or 10 years old.
Okay.
Don't really remember. It's all such a big blur of moving here and just going through like the big culture shock, honestly, of moving from Panama to the United States to Texas. And then a year after we moved to Texas, we moved to New York for my dad's job again. Wow. We were there for about a year, and that's when my parents decided to get divorced. We moved back to San Antonio. At that point, when my parents decided to get divorced, my mom really started to struggle with just so many different aspects of, she's in a country she's never been in before, she's alone with 2 girls, and there was just a lot of mental health issues in that really affected me and my sister, of where like just so many things of like having to raise ourselves in so many areas of life. And I have forgiven her a lot now. We've had a lot of conversations now, but at the time there was points where like I literally thought we would never speak again. And I've been doing a lot of work on this lately with like my therapists and talking about how like at the time I would describe it as like actual like living, it sounds so dramatic, but like it was like hell as like a 16-year-old. And I've actually always said that was honestly worse than Ella passing. Wow. And I think that's what built my strength, is truly like that experience with growing up. And so I moved out of my mom's house when I was 16 to go live with my aunt, and my sister did the same thing actually when she was in high school. Moved there, and that was the first time in my life where I was like, okay, there's hope of a better life for me. If I had just stayed there, I didn't know what, I honestly didn't think I would make it past like 20 years old, to be honest with you. I didn't really understand that there was more to life for me. And so just living with my aunt really saved my life in so many ways. And she taught me how to do the dishes, and she taught me how to clean my room, and she taught me how to take care of myself and how to have relationships. And then I went to college.
How did college enter the picture? Did you always want to go?
So actually, one of my best friends, so at the time, his name is Ted. He was one of my first friends when we moved to Texas the second time. I had the biggest crush on Ted. He was so cute. He looked like Niall Horan from One Direction to me, so I was like, perfect, that's the one. I was 11 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And he liked A&M. And so I was like, okay, I like A&M.
Okay.
I just stuck to it. And years passed, and that was just in my head. It was like you either like the Longhorns and UT or you like A&M. It's one or the other. And so I went with A&M because Ted liked A&M, duh. Right. And going through everything, Ted is now actually Hunter's best man in our wedding.
Gosh. So your current fiance's best friend. Wow.
Yes, they've become best friends, and truly, like, we make the joke that, like, if it wasn't for Ted, my life would look completely different. And I didn't think college was gonna be in the cards for me. It was like something like early on I was like, yeah, like it's probably not gonna happen, but I might as well try. Like, we'll see what happens. And I think that's kind of how I've approached everything, where it's like, no, I'm not set up for this and it's probably not gonna work, but like, at least it's worth the try. And that's when I applied, I got in, but at the time my mom was still just on her green card and my dad had just retired, and so there was no one that could co-sign on the loans for me.
Yeah.
So I went to Blinn, which was the community college, that first year so I could build my credit. Then I was able to apply the loans, take out the loans to go to A&M my sophomore year.
How was Texas A&M? What was your experience like there?
Oh my goodness. It's everything that I remember just walking around campus all the time and thinking, like, if 12-year-old me knew that we made it here, like, oh my gosh, she would actually be losing her mind. Like, it was everything I never had as a kid, of the family aspect of it and the tradition aspect of it. And, like, as a kid, I just remember hearing so much about it, and everyone would talk about the football games and the traditions, and I was like, I want that. And the fact that I got to do that, even through, like, there was not a better school I could have been at, because truly the reason that I graduated and I ordered my Aggie ring when I did was because of the support that Texas A&M gives their students and the people that go to Texas A&M and the community. And really, like, as a school, I could not have had a better experience.
There's a sense of camaraderie, just like Auburn, these Southern type schools. It's really hard to explain to people who've never experienced it. It's like, in a way, everyone almost becomes family, and you're all on one team, and it's really hard to explain. But like you said, people step up for you in ways, I feel like if you went to other schools, it's just not the same experience. Mm-hmm. So 100%. How did you find out you were pregnant? How old were you, and what was going on in life? Oh my goodness
gracious. Yeah, so it was my sophomore year, I was 19. I had just met Hunter. Hunter and I met in October of 2020. I had gone to high school with his cousins, so I knew who he was when we met, and I played dumb. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you look so familiar. Like, and I knew exactly, him and all his cousins look the exact same. Their last name is so, like, rare. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, you look so familiar. Where are you from? Knowing exactly where the conversation was going to go, of like, oh my gosh, I went to high school with Eisenhower. It's crazy. And so we met, and I found out I had just gotten diagnosed with PCOS.
Okay.
And we did an exam for PCOS where they were going to test whether or not I was infertile in November.
Okay.
My doctor at that point told me, she was like, yeah, you are most likely infertile. And so Hunter and I got pregnant January 1st of 2021. And I went, and obviously I don't know that. And on January 12th, I'm going back to get the results from the test from November. I'm pregnant and I don't know it. Whoa. And my doctor's like, hey, yeah, like, so yeah, you are infertile. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to put you on birth control to help with your hormones, whatever it is. And so I'm like, I'm literally like 2 weeks pregnant, I guess, or whatever it is from your last period. And I'm being told I'm infertile. So I'm like, okay, cool. Not thinking it, like, and she's like, yeah, you just have to take a pregnancy test before you start taking the birth control, just for, like, safety measures. And I was like, okay, cool. So I go and buy the pregnancy test. She gives me the birth control pills to take home with me, or like the pharmacy did. And for some reason, I just would not take the pregnancy test. Like, I just couldn't get myself to do it. Like, I was like, no, like, I don't feel like it. Like, it's fine. I'll take it eventually. I'll get on the birth control eventually. Like, not losing anything by not being on it. And finally, on the first day of class of the winter, or like spring semester, I guess, I like get this like sinking feeling in my stomach, and I'm like, no, I need to take this test. Like, something like, I did. And I called my friend Devin, one of my best friends, and I was like, dude, like, I need, like, I was like, I don't know. And she's like, just go take the test, like, it's gonna be fine. Like, and I actually, like, we're on FaceTime, I go to Walgreens, I pick up a pregnancy test, I call her, we're still on the phone, and me thinking that this is gonna be a funny little video, like, of like, no, I'm not actually pregnant, I screen recorded the FaceTime, and I look at it, and I drop it, and Devin is just like, she's like, no, put it down, she's like smiling, not out of like joy, obviously, but just like, what it, like, like, we're just both like, what is happening? I take another one and it's negative.
Okay, that's a mental screw.
I was like, okay, we're good. I was like, okay, we're fine,
First one was wrong. We're gonna go with the second one.
100%, exactly. It's like, okay, that's not gonna work. So I call Hunter and he comes over and he's like, I'm like, okay, here's what happened. I break down the situation to him. I'm like, okay, one's positive, one's negative. And he's like, okay, so you're fine. And I was like, well, let's just go pick some up to be safe. And so we go back, get more, come back to the house. And this time I like pee in a cup, and we stick both of the pregnancy tests in there at the same time. And immediately both of them turn positive. And sweet Hunter, he's like, no, like they're broken. Like that was too fast. Like the box said 2 minutes. And I was like, no, I was like, Hunter. And he was like, no, like they're broken. Like the box says 2 minutes. And I was like, no. Like I was like, no, that just means I'm like, and in that moment, it was just, I think, like, I remember just being like, this isn't real. Like, I think I was just kind of numb to the situation in the moment, and Hunter and I had known each other for 2 months at this point. Like, we did not know each other super, super well. And both of us, our first thought was like, okay, how do we fix this? How do we get out of this? Mm-hmm. But the next couple of months were just literally, like, the darkest point of my life.
What in that moment, and y'all know we just need to fix this so that nobody else, finds out, life continues to go on, is your thought immediately, we need to make an appointment at the local Planned Parenthood?
Yes.
Walk us through, what does that look like? Do you just show up? Do you call? What even does that process entail?
Yeah, for the first few weeks, I didn't even know where to start. And so I was kind of just trying to ignore the problem. Like, I was just kind of trying to, like, I talked to my therapist actually immediately the next day. Like, and I'm so glad I did that. But we worked more on the, like, she's not going to sit there and tell me what to do, And so I would tell her what I wanted to do. And she'd be like, okay, well, in the moment, I could feel that she was like, it wasn't a disappointment. It was like she was hurt for me. But I just avoided it. I just didn't even let myself think of it as an option to not go to Planned Parenthood. And so first we go to this clinic in College Station that they, like, when you look up Planned Parenthood, it's one of the ones that, like, pops up. Okay. That they, like, they advertise. I don't know. It's not a Planned Parenthood. It is not something that you go to if that's the route that you're going. But so we go, us not knowing that, and I know that their hearts are in the right place, and I appreciate the thought. Sure. But the execution of what they do, I didn't, as a girl in that position who didn't end up doing that, I didn't love how they went through it, because it was very much of just, they make you think that they're there to walk you through one thing, when in reality they're just trying to get you to not have an abortion. Right. And they did like a inner ultrasound, and the lady that was doing it didn't know what she was doing. She ended up FaceTiming someone to help her to do it while she's like doing the ultrasound. And she's like, okay, here's Andrea, and puts me on the camera, and I'm like, I'm distraught, right? Like, I don't want to be pregnant. No. Like, I don't even know why I'm here, because I thought that I was getting a consultation for something else. Yeah. And so she's like FaceTiming, and she's like, okay, here's Andrea, say hi. And I'm like fully with the thing up me. Wow. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, okay, like, get me out of here. So we finish it I'm very polite, and I'm always going to be, and so I'm just like, okay, thank you guys, like, have a good day. And I just was like, okay, I cannot go back there. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. And for the first time, that's when adoption was introduced into the conversation. And I kind of sat with it for a couple days, but for some reason, I just was like, no, it's too much. It's too much. I can't handle this. So eventually I figure out how to actually get hold of an actual Planned Parenthood. We had to go to the one in Waco. And so those 2 months in between finding out I was pregnant in January and going to Waco in March was quite literally, it was more of a month and a half, but it was quite literally just, I was going to church every day in between classes because I could not get, like, I would just be sobbing through class. And so I'd, like, go to class and, like, try to take notes and try to do my thing, and then I'd go sit at church and I'd come back and I would just do the same thing all over every day. And at that point I was really, like, in my head, I was not in a position to, like, even explore my emotional feelings for Hunter. Right. So we were kind of just, like, it was a weird situation where he didn't know what to do. I didn't, like, he was involved with me. Like, he would come to the doctor's appointments with me, but I would be nervous for him to come with me at first. And, like, I didn't know if he wanted to go. And I was like, does he even want to be involved? But just those 2 months, I think it was a lot of loneliness. Mm-hmm. But slowly I, like, started to open up to people around me.
So do you eventually end up getting an appointment at that Planned Parenthood in Waco?
Yes.
Walk our listeners through what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I had a couple friends that I had confided in about what I was going through, and I had just talked about how there was all the, like, medical reasons why this wouldn't be smart for me to do. I'm on ADHD meds, and that's gonna mess me up. And had just been diagnosed with bipolar depression type 2, and those meds, and the physical aspects of my PCOS, and the what could happen to the baby, and what could happen to me. And I was just, like, finding all of the reasons why. And I'm 19 years old, and I'm a mess. Like, I was going through so much with my mental health at this point. Like, I could not wrap my head around bringing a child into this. Right. And I had talked to some friends, and they were never judging me. They were never, ever judging me, which is, this is a Catholic group of friends that I was scared, you know? Like, I was like, okay, how are they going to react to this? But not once was I approached with any kind of judgment. They were just there to love me. So on March, I think it was 4th of 2021, we go to the Planned Parenthood in Waco. Hunter and I go, he drives, and we get there. And at the time, it was still COVID, so he couldn't come inside with me. Oh, my goodness. And so we walk through, and there's the 40 Days for Life people outside. And again, I understand that their hearts are in the right place, but the way that they, like, that would not have, as a woman in that situation, that was not what I needed to not make that decision at all. Hunter ended up telling me that while I was in there, they were jumping over the fence to yell at him in his truck and to scream at him and tell him that he's going to hell and say, why are you letting her do this? That's your, like, just not at all what needs to be happening. Mm-hmm. Like, it honestly makes me angry. Mm-hmm. I go in that first day, and they kind of just ask me questions, and I'm just kind of, like, breathing through it. You know, I'm just kind of there. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what was happening. I just very much disassociated from the situation of just to protect myself. And so you have to come in for a consultation, and then you have to come in for the actual procedure. So 2 days later, we drive back to Waco for the actual procedure, and the process was like, we got there, it was the same thing where the 40 Days for Life people were outside, the same exact group of people. And Hunter has to stay in the truck. And so I go inside, and I'm like, hello, I'm here. I go to the lady at the front desk, and I go to the bathroom. And for the first time in the entire time that I've been pregnant, I start crying because I had been crying so much about the situation, but I start crying about the fact that I'm giving up my baby. For the first time, yes, I let myself feel that for the first time of, like, this sucks. And I, like, gather myself, I go back in the lobby to wait, and like I convinced myself that like this was part of my plan, was to do this so that I can help other. I don't know what I thought. I was just justifying it in some ways. And I think for the first time in the whole process, I said to God, I was like, okay, if you don't want me to do this, I remember it exactly. I remember exactly where I was looking. I was looking at the clock and I was like, okay, fine. If you don't want me to do this, fine, but you have to get me out of here because I can't do it. I can't get out of here. And so they bring me in and they're going through like, just like the whatever they need to do, like the questions and blood pressure. And I kind of start weeping is the only way I can describe it. I wasn't outwardly crying, but there was tears coming down my face. And the first nurse, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. We go back, and I change into like the hospital gown, and I'm 5 minutes from going into this room, and there's two other ladies right by me, and one's my age, and she was probably in her 30s, and we're all, like, it's like you're sitting in a row of, like, these big, kind of like, they look like massage chairs. It's like 5 of them, and one's on one end, I'm in the middle, and there's, like, partitions in between them. And I'm in the hospital gown, they're giving me medication to, like, for infections and for, like, calm and whatever it is, and I'm still weeping here, and the nurse in front of me, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm fine. She asks me again, and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. She walks off, and another nurse comes and kneels down in front of me, and she asks me, she goes, why are you here today? And I told her all of my reasons of, I don't know what to do, I'm on ADHD meds, and this and that, and all the things. I'm in college, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not ready to be a mom. And she says to me, she goes, there are so many girls that have ADHD, and there's medications for those, and in the back of my head, I still knew that adoption was an option. Like, that, in my head, that was the only other option, was the adoption. But I was just so afraid. I was so afraid of having this baby. And she says, you're not out of time. There's clinics in Austin that you can go to later, but if you are not 100% comfortable with what you're doing, I'm not letting you go in there. Wow. And she kind of gave me a moment. She goes, do you want to leave? And I said, yes. And that was the first time, I think, ever in my life that, yes, God had answered so many prayers, but that was a physical, just in the moment of, God, get me out of here, like, because I can't do it. And he quite literally did. And that is what gave me so much peace.
So you get back to the car to tell Hunter. How does he react?
So I, for some reason, assumed that they were going to tell him. I don't know why. I don't know why I was like, yeah, they're going to tell him for me. I don't know where I got that. But I had asked, like, oh, can y'all tell Hunter to drive around so that I don't have to walk past these people screaming at me?
Right.
And so for some reason in my head, when they went to go tell him, they told him for me. In what world would they do that? I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, yeah, he knows. We're good. I get in the truck, and it's just, like, very quiet, and he, like, neither of us are saying anything, and he holds my hand as soon as I get in, and we're on the highway, and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. And he immediately just, like, freezes up. We're driving 70 miles an hour on the highway, and he's like, what? And I was scared. I was scared that he was going to be upset with me. I thought he was upset with me because we weren't talking. Like, I was like, okay, we get in the car and we're just quiet. And he goes, wait, you didn't do it? I said, no. And he goes, thank God.
Wow.
And we had never had, like, both of us from the beginning were like, this is what we do. Like, it wasn't just me. It was his first thought. His first thought was the exact same thing. And neither of us had even brought up the idea of not doing it. And he was like, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know, but it's not that. And I said, I have no idea what we're going to do. And in that moment, I had peace because of what had just happened to me. But he didn't have that experience. He was sitting in the parking lot with men yelling at him that he's going to hell and all these things. And so he's not in the same thought process of like, oh, everything's going to be okay. And so he's just scared, of course. But him saying, like, I thought he was going to be mad at me, and the reaction that I got instead of thank God was everything in that moment of just, like, relief that I don't think he even knew he needed.
What's wild is you got in the car thinking he knew that you had not gone through the abortion. He thought you'd gone through the abortion. Y'all are both not talking because you're both like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
Exactly.
And then you come to the realization that in all actuality, neither of you really wanted to go through with that decision.
Exactly.
Absolutely wild. So thinking through the adoption piece, how does that progress? How does that conversation continue to come up between the two of you?
It was brought up at that first building or office that I had been to, and that was the first time I'd ever heard about it. But that was just like basic adoption, like where it's just there and it's done. And that was my thought process, was like, okay, that's, I guess, our next best deal. Go to Mass, and earlier in the week, I had tried to sign up for this retreat called Aggie Awakening, but like, there was no spots left, and so I just didn't think twice about it. That day, I get a text that's like, hey, there's a spot open on the wait list, do you want it? And I was like, sure. This is the same day I got back from Living Here, and I was like, what do I have nothing to do this weekend, like, might as well go to this thing. And that night, obviously, I'm distraught. I'm a mess. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what. I'm not like here, like super happy to be here. Like, I'm just here. And I'm accepting myself to be where I am. And that night, they're doing like a praise and worship night. And if you want to go talk to someone, they had the option to. And I don't know this, but I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go talk to someone. I don't know who I'm going to go talk to. The room I walk into is with Father Chris. And we sit down and I just break down. I tell him everything from the beginning to this morning to where we're at now. And the conversation, he just met me with so much compassion. I was so afraid to tell a priest that. Of course I was. And he just meets me with so much joy in his way. Like, I was really confused. And we start talking, and he's like, he kind of starts to tell me like his thought process, and he says, well, actually, I just met with a couple that I'm doing their wedding in a few weeks, and they actually, the bride had a baby when she was in high school, and they did an open adoption, and that little girl is now the flower girl in their wedding. And he was telling me that open adoption means that they have a relationship. And he says to me, he was like, and that baby could be your flower girl or your ring bearer. And for some reason, we didn't know the gender yet, but in my head, what stuck with me was flower girl. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, okay. It wasn't like I wasn't like happy all of a sudden and everything was okay, but for the first time there was something and I was still it wasn't like I was ready to go, and I was so just as lost as I was the day before.
Absolutely.
And he said that he gave her my information, and she reached out, and we talked on the phone for like an hour while I was there over spring break, where she told me her experience with like her and her daughter and her life after, and just hearing her story. She just became like a sounding board for me, finally, that I had. And first I tried this one adoption agency in San Antonio, and that just did not go well at all. It was very, like, it felt very, it felt like it was my choice, but it was really like, oh, here's this couple.
Okay.
And they had me, the first day I went into this office, they have me on the phone interviewing people.
Interviewing other couples on the first
yes.
day? Wow.
First day I'm ever in there. On speaker with them listening. Yes. Ooh. Like, on speaker while they're listening to me. And they had me say, okay, like, which two were your favorite? And even before that, she was like, oh, I think I know who you're gonna like. Like, this is the one I think you're gonna like. So, like, that's already getting put in my head. And this is the only experience I have so far. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay, great. But over time, as things are happening, over the next couple weeks, and we start opening up to Hunter's parents, who had just moved actually to College Station, and I start building a relationship with his mom, and we got close very quickly. And over the next couple weeks, as we're talking about things, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, just felt very, there was no regard, in a sense, for me, of that I was going through something, and that it wasn't just like, okay, I'm ready to give these people, this is it. I haven't even met these people.
Right.
And on the website, the couple it said pending. And so I feel for them because like their hearts are broken because they're being told that essentially they're ready to go, but I'm not there.
Right.
And so like I don't blame them whatsoever. That organization just really, I didn't love the way that things went there. And it was really sad because my friend's mom who used to work there like recommended it, and she ended up telling me later on, she was like, no, I'm like so sorry that you went through that, like whatever. And but that just really rubbed me such a wrong way. And during that time we ended up, I talked to Emma and I was like, where did you go? Like I don't know what to do right now. And she was like, we went to Gladney. And so that was my next best thought. And we actually connected with I believe her same agent. It was very much about us.
Okay.
Like she was there to protect us, me and Hunter. Yeah. And that was exactly like, and it wasn't, they gave us first 30 families to look through. And then they gave us, okay, let's go down to 15, and over months, like it was just so, and it was like them helping us make the decision if that's even what we wanted to do. It wasn't just, okay, you want to do this, let's do it. It was
didn't feel pressure.
Talking through. Exactly. It was the conversations of like, okay, what would it look like if you didn't? Mm-hmm. What would it look like if you did? And that's where I was like, okay, this is the group or the people we want to be with. She would drive to College Station from Austin to come and have meals with us and sit with us. And that's where we are with the adoption at that point. And then we go to the doctor and they tell us we got to go to Temple.
Which that is a whole, I mean, when I say you have overcome so much, I mean, you have, first you take you're told you're infertile, and then you need to take a pregnancy test to start on birth control. And the first one's positive, the second one's negative, then the third one's positive. I mean, that in itself is whiplash.
Yeah.
And then you go down this route of going to a clinic and you think it's an abortion clinic, but it's not. And then you go to an abortion clinic and you don't want to be there. And, the father of your child is thinking the same thing. You get out of that situation. So now you're with an adoption agency and you feel very much pressured by them. And that's not going the way that you're thinking. So now you're at a different adoption agency, and it's starting to sink in that this could be a decent choice and they're doing it the right way. And then something else happens with you medically. Walk our listeners through what happened when you went to that ultrasound appointment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So this was, I think, so over time, I was not letting Hunter come to the doctor's appointments because I didn't think he wanted to come, right?
I mean, y'all had been dating 2 months before you got pregnant, and then you're weighing all of these options. I imagine there's not much time or emotional capacity to invest in one another.
Yes, and that was another thing is like when I tell you that he is everything and more. And he actually told me he loved me pretty early, like I think in February before we even went to Planned Parenthood. And I told him, I was like, I can't, a couple months later, I said to him, I was like, I can't tell you the same right now because I said I don't have the emotional capacity to even like explore that right now. And and in that moment, I thought he was going to break up with me. I was like, if someone tells you that, your dog, and this was kind of the first time where I was like, whoa, he was like, okay.
This man is invested. I mean, men run quicker with one of these things happening to you versus this entire journey you two have been on. And we're not even halfway through this entire journey. And he's still holding strong and wanting to invest.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so in that moment, I was like, you're not breaking up with me? And he was like, no, like I will be as involved in your life as you want me to be. And he's like, and I was like, you don't hate me? He was, you're the mother of my child. How could I hate you? And I was like, oh. Like I was like, okay. Like, and just for the first time I was like, okay, wait, maybe I do love him. Like, I was like, maybe
like I haven't had a chance to really think about this.
Exactly. I was like, I remember like going upstairs and I was like, huh. Like, I was like, that's crazy. And so pretty quickly from there, we started to actually build a relationship. And outside of even being pregnant, like just me and Hunter. And the day that I knew that I loved him was Mother's Day. We went to his family's house. His grandparents lived in College Station. His parents had just moved there, and his aunts and uncles and the family that I went to high school with, who used to drive me home from school, is like Stacy and Emma, who I literally grew up around, like, which is so insane now. Like Emma getting to be one of my cousins, I'm like, what? Like, we're family? Like, it's so exciting. And so I'm there, and it's Mother's Day, and I'm like talking to Emma, and we're talking about high school, and we're talking, like, we know each other, and I see Hunter around his family, and I was like, wow, like, this is the real deal. And that night I told him that I loved him. And so, yeah, and so the next couple months, everything just kind of starts to fall into place. It was quick. As soon as that happened, it was like we had never been apart. It was like, this is it. There was we never really talked about it necessarily, but there was no question about it. But pretty quickly, we both knew that this is who we want to be with, regardless of the adoption or not.
How beautiful to know that he was going to stick by your side through whatever this ended up looking like.
I have no words for the person he is, and that he's the one that, like, I feel so indebted to, like, his family for raising such a wonderful man. Like, I cannot even fathom how they did that. But he came into my friend group, and he became, all of them are in our wedding, and it's more than I ever could have asked for. And so that summer, this was in June, like June 24th, I had just come back from the beach with my best friend Devin, who was the one who had been on the phone with me when I found out I was pregnant. And I came back, and we had an ultrasound, and this was one of the first ones or I think it was like the first or second one he had been to with me, because I was finally, like, we were finally having conversations about our feelings of, do you want to be involved? What do I want? Like, and so he was with me. I think this was our second appointment, and we go in, we do the ultrasound, and obviously they're not going to tell us anything there. We had been to a doctor's appointment beforehand. I had been to like 4 or 5 at this point, and every time I went in, my blood pressure was high. Okay. And they would kind of retake it over and over again until it was at a number that they were okay with, right? And they never took any, I think they took one pee sample once, very, very early on. The blood pressure thing was always kind of weird to me, but I had anxiety, and obviously I was stressed, and so I was like, yeah, no big deal, whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I did notice that. Like, I remember that very clearly, multiple appointments where they would take my blood pressure, and they were like, they would kind of freak out, and they'd be like, and they'd take it over and over again until it was at a number they were comfortable writing down. But so we go to the ultrasound, and a couple hours later, I'm freaking out at this moment because there's no appointments until August. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? It's the end of the world. I'm like mad at Hunter for whatever reason. It's not his fault. Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why aren't you as stressed as I am? 30 minutes later, we're in the car going to Home Depot. Hunter's about to leave for a week to go to help at a summer camp with a bunch of kids. We're in the car to, like, go get whatever he needs, and we get a call, and it's my doctor, and she goes, hey, I need you to sit down. And I put her on speaker, and I was like, okay. And she goes, I need you to drive to Temple, to the Baylor Scott and White there. It's about an hour and a half. You're okay. The baby's okay. They're going to take care of you. Just pack for a week, and I will call you in a bit. Just get there now. And Hunter and I didn't say a word. He drove me to my house. I got my stuff. And that was the first moment where, like, we were both crying in the car, but that was the first moment we were like, what's going on? And we kind of stopped for a second. Yeah. We went to his house, got what he needed, called our parents. His parents followed us there, essentially. They were there maybe an hour after we got there. She calls me and she goes, hey, so now that you've had a moment, like, let's talk. And I was like, okay. And she tells me that the baby's measuring small. There's nothing wrong with the baby. We just need to figure out why the baby's measuring small. And she tells me exactly what they're going to do. She goes, when you get there, they're going to just give you some steroids. They're going to do this and this. She very well prepares me for this. And she tells me the reason we didn't bring you here is because these people have the higher level intensive things that they need.
Correct.
And the higher level NICU. Yeah. And that's when I was like, whoa. Like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know about the NICU until you're in it. Honestly,
it's a whole different chapter of life that not many people talk about, but it's extremely traumatizing.
Yeah. And she tells me, okay, you're gonna be fine. This is what they're gonna do. I went here. She goes, this exact thing. I went here. They're gonna take great care of you. And I said, okay, thank you. And she goes, I already talked to them. They know that you're coming. Just get there. I said, yes, ma'am. We're on our way. And we get there. We sign in, and me and Hunter, who we are, like, I get there and I'm now making friends with all, like, everybody. Like, I'm like, okay, we're, like, I feel fine. And so I'm just like, we kind of settle in, and then, like, we have the nurses and the doctors coming in, and I'm like, hi, guys, like, I'm Andrea, how are y'all? Like, I'm just fine now. And they're giving me steroid shots, and I'm like, oh, that's going in my butt? And, like, just, like, we're, like, messing around, you know what I mean? And, like, the nurses did such a good job of, like, matching my energy to where, like, because if I was acting like that and they were all stressed, I would have probably freaked out. Hunter's parents get there pretty quickly after, and this entire time, I don't realize that I'm the one that's sick. In my head, even though she had told me that Ella was fine, at this point she didn't have a name, but that the baby was fine, in my head, I was fine too. In my head, she was having issues for some reason. I don't know. And so they're just telling me, like, she's just measuring small. We just need to figure out why she's small. And so we spend a day of, like, doing full ultrasounds with the doctor, and Hunter's mom is with us the entire time, and she's like, do you want me in the room? I'm like, yes, please. I'm like, and so my mom and my sister get there that night. That was the first time my mom was meeting Hunter, mind you. In the hospital, and my mom's Hispanic, and we're speaking Spanish the entire time. Hunter doesn't know what we're saying. They're meeting for the first time. My mom's thankful. At this point, she's doing a lot better than she was, so she was very kind and loving to Hunter. Okay. She loves Hunter already. I was stressed about that.
Yes.
And they're meeting, and my sister and Hunter just immediately start, like, messing around, and they're best friends all of a sudden, and I'm like, great. Like, this is okay. And so the next day, in the morning, we're doing the ultrasound, and Hunter's mom came with me. My mom had gone to get my sister or something, but I wanted that calmness, yes. And my mom is not going to provide calmness. She's the excited one, and yes. The reason I am the way I am. Hunter's mom knows what's going on, and Hunter's mom is a sense of peace. And so we go to the ultrasound, and we're with the doctor, and we're all kind of just, like, joking around a little bit, and he's like, well, like, they're asking me a million questions, because he's like, I'm trying to figure out why, like, we couldn't figure out why this was happening, essentially, and we were just going over everything in the last year, and, like, what could be causing this, and it was kind of stressing me out, because I was like, why don't y'all know what's going on? Like, I was like, how serious is this? But for some reason, in my head, I was like, no, everything's fine. I think it's like a protection thing.
Feeling badly, and so it wasn't computing that this was probably as serious as it was.
Exactly. And so I was like, we're good. Like, I'm fine. I feel fine. Like, everything's okay. And as they start asking me questions about, like, again, and they're like, do you ever see black dots? And I'm like, well, actually, yeah, sometimes when I'm in the shower. But I was like, I thought that was just normal. Like, I thought that was like, and they're like, okay, that's your blood pressure. And then they asked me, do you ever get chest pain? And I was like, yeah. Like, sometimes it just feels kind of cold is the way I described it. And they were confused when I said that. They were like, cold. And I was like, I don't know. It's just like cold air. I don't know. I didn't know how to describe it. And then again, I think this was later on I figured this out, but I used to get pains right here, right? Where this is apparently, like, where your blood pressure pain happens, and where it's like, when you start running, it hurts. I thought that was her kicking. So I literally was just like, guys, oh my gosh, she's kicking.
Yeah.
And that's not what was happening. And so she came, and she was not pressuring us at all. She was just there to support, and was like, hey, do not worry right now. Like, we're good. And she left us the books if we wanted to look at them. I don't even remember if we did or not. But, so that morning I wake up and I, like, recorded her heartbeat. And I remember looking at the date, and I was like, June 27th. Like, huh, like, that's a cute date. Like, but truly thinking we're going to be here for another 2 months. They come in that morning, and I guess, like, the nurse checks they're great at not reacting to things, thankfully. That's their job. And so, no, like, everyone's fine. And then the doctor comes in and checks on me. And she's like, hey, are you experiencing any symptoms right now? And that's when I told her that my chest was cold. Okay. And she was like, huh? Like, what does that mean? Like, okay. They come back about 30 minutes later, and it's just me and Hunter in there. And they go, so we're going to go ahead and deliver today. And it's probably around, like, 11 a.m., I think, at this point. And I just go, okay. Like, I remember, like, kind of being like, all right, like, let's do this.
And how many weeks are you right now?
26 and 1. 26 and 1. And I'm like, all right, like, cool. Like, and so what we actually did, which I still feel bad about this, but I know it was the right decision. I said to Hunter and his parents, I said, no one tell my mom until she's an hour from here, okay, so that she can come back. But I knew that if in the moment we told her that what was happening, that extra stress was just not, I knew she would be freaking out. I that I did not need more stress in that moment because my blood pressure was high.
That too. I
Exactly.
can understand that.
Exactly. And so we waited until they were an hour out, and then Hunter's mom, once I was in the C-section room, that's when they reached out to my mom and they were like, okay, come back. My mom also still doesn't know this. My sister does. This is probably when my mom will find out, so I'm sorry, Mom. But over the next couple hours, like, yeah, I felt okay, like my chest hurt, but slowly they started to give me magnesium and different things, and I just started to feel like hell. Truly, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? And I at this point, I still think that she's the one that's sick. And the whole thing is we're trying to leave her in as long as possible so that she can grow, because that's the safest place she can be without hurting you. And I was like, like, okay. And the hours go by, and the nurses that I had, 2 of them, Shay and Jenny, are just everything. They're everything and have touched my life still to this day and walked me through so much. And we go into so I'm like feeling like crap, and I remember even telling Hunter's parents, because they were in the room with us for a bit and like talking, and I remember telling Hunter, I was like, they need to get out. I was like, I cannot listen to people talking right now. Like, I just need to be, I'm dying right now. Like, I didn't know that I was actually dying, but in my head I was like, I just feel like crap, get everybody out of here. And so we go into the C-section room, and Hunter goes to change into his clothes and into like the dad clothes, I guess. I don't really know what it's called. The scrubs, yeah. And I'm in the like emergency surgery room or whatever where they do the C-section, and I'm holding onto a pillow, and they're like having to roll me off the bed onto a chair to sit up, or like onto something. And she has me hold onto a pillow, and I was saying to her, or they give me the epidural, and I said to her, I met the nurse, I said, do I have to do anything right now? Because if I have to even lift my foot, I can't. And she goes, nope, that was the hardest part. After this, you just lay down. And I said, okay. And I remember I was just laying there, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just feel like crap. And then finally Hunter walked in, and it was like golden lights. I was like, thank God you're here. I was like, I immediately felt so much better, just I think mentally, and because the anesthesiologist, he was so kind and just trying to help, of course. But he's like talking to me, asking me questions, trying to calm me down. But in the moment, I started lying to him, because I was like, I don't even feel like thinking about he was like, oh, when do you get your Aggie ring? And I was like, next year. Not true at all. Like, he's like, what year are you? I said senior. I was a sophomore. I was just full on lying because I couldn't even think. And I hear a squeak, right? I don't really know what it is. It sounded like a little dog toy, and I assumed it was her, but I didn't really think twice about it. And I remember, like, a few minutes later, I asked the guy, I was like, is she still, like, how much longer until they get her out? And he was like, oh, she's been out for, like, 10 minutes. I was like, what? I was like, no one was going to tell me? Like, and and obviously they're busy. And so I understand. But in the moment, I was like, hello? Right. And so he's like, yeah, actually, like, she's in the NICU. She's with the doctor. She's safe. They're just going to put you back together, like, so, or he didn't say it like that, but he said, like, he's like, now they're just going to put everything, get you better, and then this is what takes the longest. And I was like, okay. And so, at this point, I haven't seen her. I'm back in the room. They also don't warn you that you literally cannot laugh after you have a C-section. You can't.
It's so painful.
Oh my goodness gracious. It was, that was a shocker. And she was born at 3:42, and I was, like, going nuts, because I was like, can I please go meet her? And they were like, oh, like, your blood pressure. And I was like, and finally at like 11, Hunter goes to the nurse. He's like, her blood pressure is not going to go down until she goes to see her. Right. And I was like, thank you, Hunter. I was like, because Hunter had already seen her at this point. And it's like, he went actually like immediately from the room while I went back. He got to go see her, which brought me so much peace. And they took a picture, and some of her nurses that like stuck with us through the whole thing are in the background of it, and you can see her, and it's just so full circle. But so finally Hunter, we get to meet her, and we go to bed, and that next morning we actually finally go in, and like we get to sit. Her nurse was Laura, and Laura is everything. She's still with, like, she's everything. And Laura and JJ were there that day, I think, and we go in, and she's just talking to us, and we're just getting to learn. She's very calm, and just like, she connected to us very quickly. She had kids our age too, and so I think that helped. And we told her about like the adoption plan, and she was like, actually, I've adopted 3 of my children. And so she was such a big, just that. And then that same night, as I was like quote unquote able to move. I really wasn't supposed to be moving, but I didn't care. I was, every chance I got, I was grabbing my wheelchair, putting it in front of me, and wheeling myself over to go see Ella. And Hunter would be like, Drea, like, you can't, like, you need to rest. And I'd be like, no, like, I just want to go sit with her. I just want to go sit with her. Like, I'm fine. Like, and I remember everyone being like, it'd be 2 a.m. and I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, time to go be with Ella. And one of those, I think it was that, like, second night, her nurses, it was Madeline, Paige, and Katie. And we just were talking and laughing, and they made her little name sign with her crown on it, and we were just like, it was fun. It was so fun. And Hunter finally at like 4 was like, you're still in here? And I was like, yeah, like, come hang out. Like, and at this point, we stay, I think we end up leaving on like a Wednesday. And so we've been there for a week, and the idea of leaving, I was like, like, that's weird.
It's something that's really hard to put into words, honestly, because your daughter was born premature, about the same prematurity as my daughter was, but yours was tiny. I mean, how much did she weigh?
She was a pound. She was a pound and 4 ounces, and she lost the 4 ounces the next day. She was this, we have a picture of her like 3 weeks later, so she was even bigger, next to a ballpoint pen, and she's the same size as the pen. And she had already grown at that point, and so she was literally just
itty
like
bitty.
Yeah.
And walking into the NICU and seeing your baby attached to so many cords and so many machines and not being able to hold them. It's not what you imagined meeting your child to be like at all. And so it's almost like you're having to rewrite in your brain this entire experience. And then you go and you get discharged from the hospital, and they're not coming home with you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like the experience that I was supposed to have with the adoption was like going to be different anyways. And so I think that kind of saved me in some ways, because I didn't know what to expect with that, of like how that was going to work. And I don't think I really even like understood what was going on, that she was like in this box and attached to all these things, and like on a CPAP or whatever, I don't even remember. And the day that we were leaving, like I was just like, I was expecting something completely different than the normal in the first place, and so it kind of didn't really bother me in a sense. What bothered me was when we were leaving, and I knew that when we got home, we're gonna have to figure out this whole parent situation. Like, we don't know what we're doing still at this point. And I went back into the room by myself, and I sat with her, and I said, you're coming home with me. And at that moment, I didn't even know if I meant it. I didn't know what was, like, what was happening at all. And that I was like, what am I saying? But I just kept saying it to her, and I was crying as I was saying it to her. And in the car on the way home, Hunter, we hadn't really talked about it, because we were just trying to, like, we were honestly just kind of having fun. Like, after I was, like, better, we were just kind of, like, playing around and just, like, whatever, we were okay. But we hadn't really talked about it, and I think at one point we were in the car on the way home, he was like, we were talking about, like, he's like, we need to reach out to the adoption agency this week. I said, yeah, and I think I want to talk. And he was like, yeah, I know. And so over the next couple months, it was, our friends were so amazing, and so it was weird for them, like, I think about that a lot, of like what they were going through, in a way of like watching their friends go through this thing that they can't really understand. Like, no one ever really got to meet her, and so it's like they see us and they know we're going through this thing, but they can't. Same with our families. Like, my mom got to meet her and in the beginning, and both of his parents got to meet her in the beginning, and that was it, and it was even hard for them to fathom what was going on. And my dad lives in New York. My dad's my best friend, and he is just here. He's just hearing all of this on the phone. Like, he's like, I don't know what's happening. And this goes all the way through the NICU. But we go home, and we're figuring out, I have a lunch with his aunt she got pregnant in college, and she had Tyler, who's Hunter's cousin, and we talked, and that was kind of the first day where I was like, okay, I can do this. And she told me, she said, I see it in your eyes that you're going to keep her. And I was like, thank you for telling me that, because I'm so scared to admit that. And I would talk to Emma, and she immediately drove to college. Her and the family that adopted her daughter, they all came to College Station to meet me and talk to me. And then later on, they invited me and Hunter to come, and we talked with them and got to see their family. And they were such a big part of like just even walking us through of like how to make this decision, and not in a way of telling us at all like, we're not telling you to do this. Like, they were helping us to just figure out where our hearts were. And I've always said that I described them like they're people you read about in books, that family. They're amazing. They're so amazing. And I remember them saying like something along the lines, they didn't say it straight out to us, but I could see it, and maybe this is me just thinking this, but I remember thinking like, they think we're going to keep her. And I don't know if that was me just like projecting that, but slowly I think that was closer to the end of finally making that decision. I'd always wanted to be a mom. As a kid, I never had a job I wanted. I never really knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, but the only thing I knew that I wanted to be was a mom. And I was like, well, Hunter's life is going to change too. Like, I don't want him to hate me. I don't want him to, all these things. So I actually reached out to his mom first, and I said like, hey, I don't know how to do this. And she told me like, well, you know how like she was like, he's going to be in shock at first, and you're just going to have to give him time. And I was like, okay. And she was like, so you're keeping her? And I said, yes, ma'am. She was like, okay, like, we'll figure this out. And I talked to Hunter, and he was like, it was a very quick conversation. I thought it was going to be this big, like, almost argument. Sure. But I think he knew. He was like, he's like, I've known since April. And I was like, what do you mean you've known since April? He goes, I've known since April that we were going to keep her. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, and even my friends, the same thing.
So at this point, are you still in college?
Yes.
You're still going to school?
Yes. So it was the summer, and I was actually in a summer class, and I was also working part-time as a research assistant remotely. And so I was in a summer class online, and it was like a film production class, and our final was that week. And so I didn't say anything. What I did was my final production was just little stills of the NICU. And it was literally a 4-second video. And I emailed my professor. I was like, hey, I know this probably does not meet the rubric, but this just happened, so I tried my best. And he was like, gave me 100, done. I was like, thank you. And my boss, who was, her name's Heidi Campbell. She's a researcher. She's amazing. She just published a book that like my name was in, and I was like, wait, that's kind of crazy. Like, I never thought that I'd be on a research book, but she was so patient and kind with me. And she was like, oh my gosh, do not worry. Like, do what you need to do. And there was just so much patience given to me. And so we go through the rest of the summer, and school starting up in August. And so we're just like, how are we going to do this? Of like, okay, they have student apartments, and okay, like, what are we going to do while she's in school? And thank goodness Hunter's family living in College Station they had just moved there right before I got pregnant, and like literally like 2 months before. And that's kind of what gave me the most hope. And we told my mom and my parents, and my dad was really scared at first, because he was like, what are you going to do? And my older sister had a conversation with him that was like, well, Dad, like, she's not 16, she's 20. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a great point. And I spent my 20th birthday in the NICU with Ella. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And then that same night, went to Topgolf with all my friends. And so it was kind of just living this double life, and I was in a sorority. And so obviously it looked different. I wasn't like rush week. I wasn't there for like work week or anything, of course. But like they were letting me come, like, oh my goodness. And like that whole thing of, I was supposed to be living in the sorority house that year. And I was like, okay, obviously that's not going to be the case, because in September I was supposed to be having a baby. And so I was so afraid. And the first thing I did was I went and I talked to the president of the sorority, and I'm so scared, right? And I go and talk to her, and I'm like, so I'm supposed to be living in the house. She's so kind. Oh my goodness. And I just tell her the situation, and she's like, oh my goodness, Andrea, like, we've never met before this, really. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. Whatever you need. Yes, yes, yes. And she's like, don't worry. Like, we will figure out the house. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Like, you do what you need to do. And so I talked to her, and she just gave me so much peace of like, okay, they're not here to judge me. And so the next thing I did was this was obviously all before I had her. This was in like April. I text in the group me of 300 girls and I say, hey guys, so, I kind of fell off the face of the earth. I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. We're doing an open adoption, this and that. Love y'all. Thanks.
Wow, we've only just scratched the surface of Andrea's story. In part 2, we'll dive even deeper as her journey continues to unfold with moments that'll stay with you long after the episode ends. You won't want to miss it. Tune in for the finale of this 2-part series.